Okay, let's get this going. Okay. So now that we have this back, we'll go ahead and do some more. So I left off at John Harvey. We'll go ahead and start with the Bible though. I have one hit. I could get some scraps, but we'll see what happens there. Try to save it for the morning. It's already late, but I'm gonna do this. I've been wanting to do it all day. I didn't have it. Isaiah 4. And in that day 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name, to take away our reproach. In that day shall the branch of the Lord be beautiful and glorious, and the fruit of the earth shall be excellent and comely for them that are escaped of Israel. And it shall come to pass, that he that is left in Zion, and he that remaineth in Jerusalem, shall be called holy, even every one that is written among the living in Jerusalem. When the Lord shall have washed away the filth of daughters of Zion, and shall have purged the blood of Jerusalem from amidst thereof by the spirit of judgment and by the spirit of burning. And the Lord will create upon every dwelling place of Mount Zion, and upon her assemblies, a cloud and smoke by day, and the shining of a flaming fire by night. For upon all the glory shall be a defense. And there shall be a tabernacle for a shadow in the daytime from the heat, and for a place of refuge, and for a covert from storm and from rain. To John Harvey. JJ sitting up in the hallway right now. I gave him a good old belly rub before he went to bed. To John Harvey. Mount Vernon, March 19th, 1785. Sir, if I recollect right, I mentioned when I had the pleasure of seeing you at Mr. Jones's, the 1st of October, that I was reduced to the necessity of bringing ejectments against sundry persons who had spoken possession of a tract of land which I hold not far from Fort Pitt in the state of Pennsylvania, by patent under this government for 2,813 acres. I have lately received a letter from my lawyer, Mr. Thos Smith, of Carlisle, requesting information on several points. The following are his own words. I am entirely unacquainted with the manner in which titles on lands are acquired by improvement or occupancy by the laws and customs of Virginia. I suppose it must be under certain conditions and restrictions. I should be glad to have the laws, if any, pointed out. Does the occupier forfeit his right of preemption if he does not apply for an office right in a given time? If so, when? By what laws? Or is it by the regulations established in the land office, or certified a copy of such regulations, if any, may, if necessary?
I will defend my allies.
Hold on. Well, I would assume, like, any land that hasn't been grabbed, the banks are probably grabbing, or already have grabbed up, and then you just go to the bank and get a loan. Which, I mean, we already have the map and everything. You can go to the land ownership. I'm sure there's a database for that. Again, the map, though, I think is the point there. It's a free copy of such regulations, if any, may be necessary. The laws and customs of Virginia, they are different. Manpower, that's what it seems like. At the interview I had with that gentleman in September. He told me that it would be necessary to obtain a certified copy of the survey's return to the land office and of the date of the warrant upon which it was made. The letter, I presume, is in the hands of the surveyor, but the date, no doubt, is recited in the return. Okay. A warrant? Okay. And of the date of the warrant, which we have not, upon which it was made. The letter, I presume, is in the hands of the surveyor, but the date, no doubt, resided in the return, having, in the lifetime of Colonel Crawford, and by letter from him, received information that at the convention next before the 20th of September, 1776, the date of his letter, an ordinance passed for the purpose of saving equitable claims to the western lands, Mr. Smith requested some precise information respecting this ordinance, that is, how far it will apply in my case. Property and conveyances. Chapter 1. Creation and limitation of estates. Aliens may acquire, hold, and transmit real estate when reciprocity this is Virginia. Reciprocity required when deed or rule necessary to convey estate. No peril, petition, or gift valid when gift of personal property invalid, suicide, or attainder of felony. Estates to lie and grant as well as in livery. Same estates may be created by deed as by will. Aliens may acquire, hold on, what is this? Aliens may acquire, hold, and transmit real estate when reciprocity required. Any alien, not an enemy, may acquire by purchase or descent and hold real estate in the Commonwealth, and such real estate shall be transmitted. How do they define real estate? I think is what they're, and like I said, they at this point probably already have all of it bought up, as far as the United States anyway. And I promise you, if it's not owned by someone, it will be if you ask. You know what I mean? Here, let me get back to you on that. Oh yeah, we actually, you know what I mean? So, good luck on that one. If that answers your question, George. So you're in new territory where the land's open. That it was let an ordinance apply in my case. After the many obliging acts of kindness I've received from you and the generous terms upon which they have been rendered, I am really ashamed to give you more trouble. But as the dispute in which I am engaged is of importance, and a very ungenerous advantage has been taken of a situation in which I could not attend to my private concerns or seek justice in due season, and as I believe no person can solve the queries of Mr. Smith and give such accurate information on such points as can be made to subversive my cause as you, I am, however, reluctantly compelled to this application. Mr. Smith's own words, which I have quoted, and his verbal application to me, which I have now just recited, will sufficiently apprise you of what was occurred to him, but I will go further and take the liberty, my good sir, of giving you a state of the whole matter, from whence you will discover the points on which my opponents mean to hinder the success of their cause. Colonel Crawford, a liver on Yoshogani, an old and intimate acquaintance of mine, undertook to procure for me a tract of land in that country, and accordingly made choice of the one now in dispute on the waters of Raccoon and Miller's Runs, branches of Shirty's Creek, surveyed the same, amounting to 2,813 acres, and purchased in my behalf the claim of some person to a part of the land, who pretended to have a right thereto. After this, he built or intended to build, according to his own account, and to the best of my recollection, for the paper being in the hands of my lawyer, I have memory only, and that a bad one, to resort to. Mr. Ford, I believe, would be the first vehicle. Ford. I believe George is giving me the patent for the vehicle. Whatever that means. I'm sure there's more than one. That's why they're competing. Anyway. Unless they lease it out like a tire. There too, after he built or intended 3 or 4 cabins on different parts of the tract, and placed one or more persons thereon to hold possession of it for my benefit. All this preceded the first view the present occupiers, my opponents, ever had of the land, as they themselves have acknowledged to me, and which I believe can be proved. So far as it respects one cabin, there can be no doubt, because it remains to this day, and is acknowledged by them to have been on the land when they first came to it. They built another cabin so close to the door of it, so as to prelude the entrance of it. Crawford, in his account of it to me, says with a view to prevent occupation. They, on the other hand, say there was no inhabitation in the house at the time. Both may be right, but the fact is I have been informed, the owner being from home, the transaction took place in his absence. You start getting into smelting. Which they probably already know how to do, but... It may be well to observe here that Colonel Crawford was only acting the part of a friend to me, for at that time, though he was a surveyor by regular appointment from the College of Woman and Mary, it was for the local purpose of surveying the 200,000 acres granted by Dinwiddie's proclamation of 1754 to the troops of the state, 1754 to the troops of the state, who were entitled to it as a bounty. But as I proposed to cover this survey with a military warrant as soon as circumstances would permit, these steps were preliminary to obtain the land. Accordingly, a warrant, which I obtained in consequence of a purchase from one Captain Posey, one under the British King's proclamation of 1763, was entitled to 3,000 acres, whose bond I now have bearing date the 14th of October, 1770, assigning to me all his right to land under it, was located thereon, and Colonel Crawford, after receiving a commission to act as deputy to Mr. Lewis, made a return of the survey to his principal, who returned it to the Secretary's office, from whence a patent issued, signed by Lord Dunmore, in June or July 1774, for 2,813 acres, reciting under what right I became entitled to the land. Hence, from the repeated warnings, which it is said can be proved were given at the time, my opponents were about to take possession of the land, and afterwards comes my title. Okay, hold on. I appreciate you. Hold on. I'm glad to know that you already had it made. I was wondering about that. They also mentioned in Egypt about driving off yonder. I wondered. It's like it seems odd that you cannot do that. Mm-hmm. The title of my opponents I know will be first. The Crawford survey was illegal. at least was unauthorized. Second, that being a great land jobber, he held or endeavored to monopolize under one pretense or other much land. And though, for they do not deny the fact to me in private discussion, although considering the lapse of time, deaths, and dispersion of people, I may find some difficulty to prove it. They were told this was my land, yet conceiving my name was only made as use of as a cover, and in this they say that they were confirmed, having, after some of the warnings given them, searched the land office of the state without discovering any such grant to me. Third, that the possession of the land preceding my patent or date of the survey's return to the Secretary's office, or even the date of Crawford's deputation under Lewis, before which every transaction, they will add, was invalid. The monopoly. You're starting to discover it. I mean, I guess, but you guys are at that point where there's pretty much open land. But I mean, if you're in a pretty given area, and they're giving contracts out, that's the only place you can go to. Nobody else can go to it. It's kind of like the Boston Tea Party. So that's the only place we can go, and you're doing this. That would be a monopoly. But to recapitulate, the dispute of my memory for want of papers does not deceive me, may be summed up in these words. First, in the year 1771, Crawford, at my request, looked out this land for me and made an actual survey thereof on my account. Second, some person, not of the opponent, setting up a claim to part included by the survey, he purchased them out, built one cabin, if not more, and placed a man therein to keep possession of the land. It was called my land, and generally believed to be so by everybody, and under that persuasion was left by some who, uninformed of my right, had begun to build before the present occupants took possession, to the exclusion, as I have related before, of the person placed thereon by Crawford. Fourth, that sometime in October 1773, according to their own account, these occupants took possession. Fifth, that upon their doing so, and at several times thereafter, they were notified of my claim and intention to assert my right. Sixth, that no survey was ever made of this land but the first one by Crawford. Seventh, that it declared in the survey's return to be consequent of a warrant granted by Lord Dunmore to Jeannot Posey assigned to me. But whether this warrant is dated before or after possession was taken by my opponents, I know not, but the survey will shew this. Eighth, after he received his deputation, which I believe was subsequent to their occupancy, he made a return of the survey to Mr. Lewis, who returned it to the Secretary's office in the early part, I believe, of the year 1774, and a patent issued without any caveat or opposition from these people. Ninth, I believe, because I never heard otherwise, that no office rights, either in this state or that of Pennsylvania, were ever obtained by my opponents resting their title upon possession. See, if you don't have cameras and stuff like planes, that would be hard. Stay in your area, you know. Under this statement of the matter, in which I have conceded everything I know, or which I think can be urged against my claim, I would thank you, as the matter will be determined in another state, for such advice and information of acts, assembly acts of convention, or rules of office, which make to the point, as my long absence renders me quite an ignoramus in these matters, and as unfit for as I am disinclined to controversies of this kind. If pre-occupancy will take place of legal right under the circumstances here mentioned, it remains still a question how far the possession and improvements which were made in my behalf, previous to those of my opponents, will avail me. That is, under what title I should then claim the land, and under that title how much of it I should hold, supposing one cabin only to have been built and occupied by any rule of office or act of government. Why were we not informed of this before it took place? When I look back at the length of this letter and consider how much trouble I am giving you, I must throw myself upon your goodness for an apology, whilst I assure you of the esteem and regard with which I am, etc. Well, first of all, the bank, the title and everything, the loan. But I mean, why were we not approached over this? You just think you're gonna sit back free of charge? Okay? You're gonna sit back free of charge, huh? Okay, before it ever even happens. Okay, buddy. Legal right to land. I'll be right back. There we go. Trying to be too loud. Talking about. So you guys are making the patent to the car right now, which I've already went through that. I don't know what to say. Talking about their fight. The shit she did. First of all, did she throw shit at him? Shut up. Get lost. Get lost with that. First of all, do you even have anything to do with it? I couldn't even tell you. I couldn't tell you much. The components of the car. I could give you some names, but I don't really know what to do. I don't really care that much. You and your metal working. Appreciate it. I think it probably looks crazier than what it actually is. I haven't put much thought into it, nor do I care. Thanks. Yeah, long periods of time. I was wondering about that. There's no way to keep track of them. You don't have like, kind of. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's what the army is for. The militia. They're just camping out. I didn't look at the date at Henry Ford, so I don't really know. I've opened my engine, so it's kind of like, well, they've seen that. They've seen a lot of it already. In the Washington papers. Dear Sir, I regret very much that your letters of the 2nd and 13th of October should have been withheld from me until this time. The last post only from Richmond brought them to me if you'd have fulfilled your intention of embarking for this continent at the early period proposed in the first of these letters, and I hope no untoward accident has intervened to prevent it. This answer will come too late, and my silence from the letter book, copy in the Washington papers, will leave you in doubt respecting horses, besides carrying with it the appearances of inattention, as there is a possibility, however, that this letter may yet find you in Ireland. I will relate the mode of traveling in this country and submit to your own judgment the propriety of depending on it, or bringing saddle or carriage horses with you. From the southern parts of this state, say from Norfolk, though Hampton, Richmond, Fredericksburg, and Alexandria, which is within a few miles of this place, there is a regular stage which passes thrice every week. It is neither of the best or worst kind. From Alexandria, though, the metropolis of every state, and Annapolis in Maryland, except the street name, which is a little to the right of the post road which goes through Baltimore. There is also a regular stage to Portsmouth in New Hampshire. They are of a similar kind and pass as often as those first mentioned, so that not more than 3 intervening days can happen between one stage day and another. A person may therefore at any time between the 1st of April and 1st of December travel from Richmond in metropolis of the state to Boston in 10 days or 12 days and return in the same time. Between this state and Charleston, South Carolina, no stages are as yet established, and the country for the most part being poor and thinly inhabited, accommodations of every kind, I am told, are bad. So much for public convenience, and I do not think I should deceive you much. Was I to add that Sir Edward Newnham would find no difficulty to get accommodated in this and some other states with the horses and carriages of private gentlemen from place to place where inclination or business might induce him to go? What the expense of transporting horses to this country would be, I am unable to say, but I conceive they would not be fit for immediate use if they were brought, if the voyage should be long. But at that same time that I deliver this opinion, I must add another, viz., that if you should bring horses and might not incline to take them back again, you could, if they were young, likely and well bought, always sell them for their original costs and the charges of transportation, especially if they should happen to be of the female kind. I have not had the pleasure of seeing either Mr. Rutherford or Captain Boyle, but the latter accompanied your letters and packages, for which I pray you to accept my thanks, with a few lines, giving reasons for their detention and information of his sailing in the course of a few days. I have in haste wrote you this letter by return of the post, hoping it may get to Richmond time enough to receive the conveyance by the Jane and Diana, that it may repeat to you if it should arrive in time. The pleasure I have in seeing you and your fellow travelers under my roof, and paying you and them every attention in my power, as the chances are against this letter's finding you in Ireland, I will not at this time touch upon the other parts of your several favors, but leaving them as matters for oral converse, beg that my respectful compliments in which Mrs. Washington joins may be present to Lady Newnham, with very great esteem, etc. I appreciate you, but I have no intention. I mean, I do, but it's like, I'm not, you know what I mean? After that, that's what you're asking. You people have problems. Go tell them about it. It sounds like a personal problem on your end and not mine. It's like, I hear you, but I don't. Especially due to the circumstances. It's like, and yeah, it's kind of like, I'm telling you these things, like, that's really true of why you keep doing this and that. step by step? Nah, that's really what's going on. The sandbox of Jackson here that we're talking about. Yeah, I'm not dealing with that at all. Cop City, no thanks. Start bringing in clones. The City of the Dead. From the southern parts of the state, say from Norfolk, okay, so we already got there with matters of oral converse, but the respectful compliments to John Francis Mercer, Mount Vernon, March 27, 1785. Dear sir, Mr. Stone gave me your favor of the 20th when I had the pleasure of seeing you at this place. I informed you, Captain John Boyle, Jr., from the letter book copy in the Washington papers on March 20th, Washington wrote City Governor Patrick Henry forwarding his letter to Newnham, a copy of which is in the letter book in the Washington papers. Patrick Henry, Henry Ford. It's about 100 years later. I informed you fully and truly of my want of money. I am at this moment paying 7 per count interest for a pretty considerable sum which I borrowed in the state of New York through means of the governor, and not being able to obtain a surety of holding it for more than 1 year from the establishment of peace, I am in continual fear, notwithstanding the high interest of having it called in. After this declaration, it is unnecessary to add how acceptable it would be to me to receive payment of the money due to me from the estate of your father, or part of it. But to take in small driblets from the hands of your lawyers would not answer the purpose, as it is more than one considerable payment I've had to make from this fund. If you go to Congress, I should be glad if the money arising from the arrangements you have made was ordered into the hands of your brother or your attorney here, and you directly pay to me in such sums I can apply in discharge of my own debts. For the fact is, I shall receive with one hand and pay with the other, if I may be allowed to use the phrase, but for which it would not be required from you. If you do not go to Congress, I shall expect the same from myself. My compliments, in which Mrs. Washington joins, are presented to Mrs. Mercer. I am, etc. Begging. The result of too much begging. A dragon falls in love with a hermit and embraces him to his distress. To frighten him away, the hermit begs for the dragon's jewel 3 times. I will have a rich drink and food aplenty, arising by reason of your jewel. I will not give to you, you beg too much, nor will I come back to your hermitage, like a youth with a clean sword in his hand. You scare me by begging for my jewel. I will not give to you, you beg too much, nor will I come back to your hermitage. You should not beg from one whose love you want. Begging too much is disagreeable. The Brahmin begged for the dragon's jewel. He went from there and was never seen again. Begging brings tears. A hermit is invited by a king to stay in his park. For 12 years, he desires a pair of shoes and a leaf umbrella, but is too ashamed to ask. Eventually he asks, receives, and goes on his way. Begging for two things, O king, he will find loss or gain of wealth. Such is the nature of begging. Beggars weep, he said to the king, and refused he also weeps. Let them not see my tears, I thought, or you weep thus to hide away. Silent begging. The king, pleased with the sage, the bodhisattva, offers him anything from his kingdom down, but the sage remains silent. The following dialogue ensues. Those poor people I do not know. Atasina gathered and begged, why is it that you do not beg? A beggar is not loved, one not giving to begging is not love. Thus I beg not, be not angry. He who lives by way of begging, and who begs not at begging time, destroys the merits of others, and himself does not live happily. He who lives by way of begging, and who then begs at begging time, causes others to gain merit, and himself will live happily. Those with wisdom are not angry after seeing a beggar come. My dear and spiritual friend, speak and ask for a boon from me. Those who have wisdom do not beg, this the wise one must surely know. The noble simply stand for alms. Such is the noble one's begging. I appreciate you. No, I'm used to that. Why am I not? Heaven and hell? I don't know what else to tell you. It's like I rely on you, but at the same time, it's like I'm ready for you to move on. It's like I'm trying to figure that out. Like the right thing to do to pack my shit and go to DC. That's what it's telling me to do. It's standing at the gate like, hey, I'm the founding father here. Why am I doing this? I think that's what it's telling me to do. Stand at the door with a sign, hey, your founding father, with the evidence right by my side. I'll be right back and let you sit on that. But that's what it's telling me to do. We know who's doing it. They do it every time. Again, you have this cult that is sitting there barking from a distance. They're basically like playing Avatar through other people. They sit there and think of ways like, how can I get them to do this? Sit there and plot. I know who's doing it. You don't have to tell me. I know what they do. That's why I don't come around. I'm used to this. I'm just. Again, it's telling me to go to DC, stand at the door with a sign, say, hey, bitch. Why am I here? These guys aren't getting out of it. They repeatedly told them with more than enough evidence, and they're sitting there barking, and it's like, shut up, dude. I'm really about to kill you, and then just get this shit over with just to prove it to you, you stupid bitch. So I'm real good. I'm going through the right steps there, and you're just continually no. You want to bet me on it? Betty Davis, how much do you want to bet me on this? That's what it's telling me to do, though, is go to DC and stand at the door. I don't really need to know anything. Nobody's begging. It's like, you're just illogical, and it's like, it didn't make sense. I hear you as far as freedom and like the choice there, but as far as my choice, I had one, and then all of a sudden, steps here. On camera. You know what I mean? They keep like making decisions around me and not realizing, like, dude, I don't actually. They're looking for a camera that's not actually. They will not see the camera. Again, the alien, real motherfucker. You will not see the camera. So every little move that was made towards me, I promise you, you are going to be held accountable for it. Like, you can go ahead and start dropping bombs. I give a fuck. I don't. I'm not. We're not at all. It is zero. And we already know who is responsible for those actions. We are not stupid. We don't come around you. That's why I don't like you. You're a dumbass. I'm not gonna break it down. Asking the right person at the right time. A student desiring to repay his teacher's disregard of others and waits until the king comes and asks him what he needs, as only the king has the power to solve his problem. If suffering has arisen, benefactor of Kasi, do not tell Kasi, do not tell Kasi, do not tell to the one who cannot free you from your suffering. He who can free you from even a small portion of the suffering, in accordance with the Dhamma, to him, if you wish, you should speak. He who, though not asked his suffering, speaks to people at the wrong time, should know his foes take joy in that. Those who wish him well will suffer. After understanding the right time, knowing his benefactor's mind, the wise one will relate his pains, gently looking for a favor. But knowing it's not possible and it will not lead to happiness, the wise one will bear up his pains, desiring truth and good conscience. That's why they want me to. I'm gonna sit here until you figure out what's wrong here, Magic. Until we figure out what's wrong here. You ruined it for everybody, and I'm not gonna back off. best. Stop playing with other people. Instead of like shaking the hand, they're trying to play tricks. Or I could just like utterly lay you to waste and not think twice. You know what I mean? Laugh about it later. Blame. The 8 worldly things. The Buddha explains the 8 worldly conditions to the monks and summarizes them with a verse. Gain and loss, fame and infamy. Blame, praise, happiness, suffering. These are impertinent, passing, having a changeable nature. Blameworthy. The lay disciple Atula goes to see Ravada, who speaks not, Sariputta, who speaks at length, and Ananda, who speaks moderately, but he is upset with them all. Finally he goes to the Buddha, who explains it thus. This is something of old, Atula. This is not something of today. They blame the one who sits silent. They blame the one who talks a lot, and one who talks moderately. There is no one who is not blamed. There was not and there will not be, and at present there is not found someone totally blameworthy or one totally praiseworthy. Unperturbed. The elder Lukuntaka Badiya was a dwarf who attained arahantship. Novices and others used to tease him, but he remained unmoved. The Buddha explained why. Just as solid rock is not shaken by wind, so the wise are not moved by either blame or praise, unshaken by pleasure and pain. The monk Gasaja and 500 other monks who are visiting the Buddha are very noisy, so he sends them away. They put forth extra effort during the rain's retreat and become aratas, after which the Buddha sends for them again. He who overcomes sense desires, scolding, slaying, and other bonds. He who stands like a mountain is unshaken by pleasure or pain. The wise do not tremble. The Buddha explains there are 5 things that cannot be obtained. For those having the nature of aging, sickness, dying, wasting, and destruction, that there should be none of these things is impossible. The noble disciple knows this and does not grieve. In grief and lamentation there is no profit and even a little gain. Through seeing your grieving and suffering, your opponents are surely uplifted. But whenever the wise one trembles not, showing good sense regarding misfortune, his opponents will become afflicted, seeing that his appearance is unchanged. Through praise or charms or speaking well, through giving or through tradition, whatever things he finds are good is where he should make his effort. It is good to understand what cannot be obtained by oneself or another. Without grieving he should endure, knowing, I will now do whatever is required. Translate wealth. The Bodhisattva is a king whose capital is overrun by another king. He refuses to fight as it would involve maiming and killing. The conquering king wonders why he does not struggle, and the Bodhisattva speaks the following verses, after which the other departs. Soon mortals will be departed from their wealth, or perhaps they abandon it sooner. I know that wealth will not last forever, therefore I grieve not at a grievous time. The moon becomes full, and then wanes again. The sun, after blazing, will set again. I know this is the nature of the world, therefore I grieve not at a grievous time. Understanding nature, one grieves not. The Bodhisattva, along with his brother and sister, is exiled in the Himalayas. While there he learns his father, the king, has died, yet understanding the way of nature, he does not grieve. When a person cannot perceive himself, even with great weeping, why should a wise and sensible person torment himself with grief? For both the young and old, the foolish and the wise, the wealthy and the poor will have their end in death. Just as for mature fruit there is always the danger of falling, so for those who are living there is always the danger of death. Many people seen in the morning are not seen in the evening time. Many people seen in the evening are not seen in the morning time. If through lamentation the one who is besotted could remove suffering and hurt for himself, the wise would lament as well. Though he has afflicted himself and has become quite lean and pale, the dead cannot be helped by that. No good comes from lamentation. Just as a burning house can be extinguished with water, just so the learned and wise person quickly extinguishes all of his griefs like the wind dispersing cotton. Although all people are attached to their family and their friends, when they die, they are reborn with another family and friends. Therefore the strong and learned one, seeing both this world and the next, who knows the Dhamma in his heart, will not be tormented by grief. I've already thought about it. But damn. So good. John J over there. All right, we'll go over to the Brahmin. What is altogether void? It must be so. Nihilistic view. It must be so, for the Suti says there was nothing whatsoever here. There was neither cause nor effect. Another person for this conclusion is the fact of origin. A jar, for instance, is produced. Hence, before its origin, it must have been non-existent. Hold on, let me double check. I know where I should be. Okay. There we go. Number 2. They said in section 3, number 2. They said to the organ of speech, chant the Udgatha for us, alright? Said the organ of speech and chanted it for them. The common good that comes of the organ of speech is secured for the gods by chanting, while the fine speaking is utilized for itself. The Asuras knew that through the change of the gods would surpass them. They charged it and struck it with evil. That evil is what we came across when one speaks improper things. They, the gods, after deciding thus, said to the organ of speech, i.e. the deity identified with the organ, chant the Udgatha, or perform the function of the priest called a guitar for us, and that is, they thought that this function belonged to the deity of the organ of speech, and that it was a deity referred to by the mantra for repetition. From evil led me to good. Here the organ of speech and the rest are spoken of as the agents of meditation and work. Why? Because in reality all our activities in the field of meditation and work are done by them and belong to them. That they are not done by the self will be stated at length in the 4th chapter in the passage. It thinks as it were and shakes as it were, etc. Here too, at the end of the chapter, it will be concluded that the whole universe of action, its factors, and its results, beginning with the undifferentiated, comes within the category of ignorance. This universe indeed consists of these 3 named form. In this and the succeeding paragraphs, the organ refers to the deity identified with us. Form and action, and the Supreme Self, which is beyond the undifferentiated, does not consist of name, form, and action, and is the subject matter of knowledge, will be concluded separately by the denial of things other than the self with the words, not this, not this. The law of the transmigrating self, which is conjured up by the limiting adjunct, apadi, of the aggregate of the organ of speech, etc., will be shown as falling under the category of that aggregate in the passage. The self comes out as a separate entity from these elements, and this separateness is destroyed with them. Therefore, it is but proper to speak of the organ of speech, etc., as being the agents of meditation and work and receiving their fruits. Alright, so be it, said the organ of speech when requested by the gods, and changed for them for the sake of gods who wanted it done. What was the particular effect of the changing done by the organ of speech for the sake of the gods? This is being stated, it is the common good of all the organs that comes through the instrumentality of the organ of speech, on account of the activities of speaking, etc. For this is the fruit shared by all of them. that is secured for the gods by chanting the 3 hymns called Pavamana, while the result produced by chanting the remaining 9, which is we now know from the scriptures, occurs to them in the sacrifice called Jidsoma. 12 hymns are chanted by the Udgar, Solomon. The fruits of chanting the first 3 of these, called Pavamana, go to the sacrificer and those of the rest of the chanting priest. Then through the remaining hymns, the chanter should secure a staple food for himself by chanting. Priest, the fine or articulated speaking it utilized for itself. Perfect enunciation of syllables is a special function of the deity of speech, hence that it is specified by the expression fine speaking. While the effect of speaking that helps the body and organs in general belongs to the sacrificer as his share. Now finding a loophole in the attachment of the deity and utilizing its power of fine speaking for itself, the Asuras knew what? That through his chanter the gods would surpass them, overcome the natural thoughts and actions by the light of those acquired through the scriptures as represented by the chanter. Knowing this, they charged it, the chanter, and struck, i.e. touched it with evil, their own attachment. That evil which was injected into the vocal organ of Prajapati in his former incarnation is visible even today. What is it? What we come across when one speaks improper things, or what is forbidden by the scriptures, it is that which prompts one to speak, even against one's wishes, that is inelegant, dreadful, false, and so on. That it still persists in the vocal organ of people who have descended from Prajapati is inferred from this effect of improper speaking. This evil that is inferred is the one thing that got into the vocal organ of Prajapati for an effect conforms to its cause. Number 3. I hear you. You're getting... It's irrelevant. You know, it speaks for itself. I feel like you don't need to put it in words. Obviously. They're taking the obvious and making it extravagant. Then they said to, like, obviously if you hadn't said it, it wouldn't have existed. And if you're art in the enunciation and pronunciation of the words, it flows within itself. Okay. Then they said to the nose, chant. The Udgatha for us, alright? Said the eye and chanted for them. The common good that comes of the nose is secured for the gods by chanting, while the fine smelling it utilized for itself. The Asuras knew that through this chanter the gods would surpass him. They charged it and struck it with evil. That evil is what we come across when one smells improper things. I need to learn this. I need to, like, note this. Number 4. Then they said to the eye, chant the Udgatha for us, alright? Said the eye and chanted for them. The common good that comes of the eye, it's secured for the gods by chanting, while the fine seeing it utilized for itself. The Asuras knew that through this chanter the gods would surpass it. They charged it and struck it with evil. That evil is what we come across when one sees improper things. Alright, Abraham. Go halfway down here. I don't know where I'm at. We'll do 1429. Happy birthday to me. In hell they will burn when an evil place for settlement. They set up equals to Allah to mislead others from his way. Say, O Prophet, enjoy yourself. Surely your destination is the fire. It doesn't matter what you say, they're going to argue. They're basically saying it is what I say it is. Tell my believing servants to establish prayer and donate from what we have provided for them, openly and secretly, before the arrival of a day in which there will be no ransom or friendly connections. It is Allah who created the heavens and the earth, and sends down rain from the sky, causing fruits to grow as a provision for you. He has subjected the ships for your service, sailing through the sea by his command, and has subjected the rivers for you. He has also subjected for you the sun and the moon, both constantly orbiting, and has subjected the day and night for you. And he has granted you all that you asked him for. If you tried to count Allah's blessing, you would never be able to number them. Indeed, humankind is truly totally ungrateful. Remember when Abraham prayed, my Lord, make this city of Mecca secure and keep me and my children away from the worship of idols. My Lord, they've caused many people to go astray. So whoever follows me is with me, and whoever disobeys me, then surely you are still all forgiving and most merciful. Our Lord, I have settled some of my offspring in a barren valley near your sacred house, our Lord, so that they may establish prayer. So make the hearts of believing people inclined towards them and provide them with fruits, so perhaps they will be thankful. Our Lord, so you certainly know what we conceal and what we reveal. Nothing on earth or in heaven is hidden from Allah. All praise is for Allah, who has blessed me with Ishmael and Isaac in my old age. My Lord is indeed the hearer of all prayers. My Lord, make me and those believers among the sins keep a prayer. Our Lord, accept my prayer. Our Lord, forgive me, my parents, and the believers on the day when the judgment will come to pass. Do not think, O Prophet, that Allah is unaware of what the wrongdoers do. He only delays them until the day when their eyes will stare in horror. Rushing forth, heads raised, never blinking, hearts void. And warn the people of the day when the punishment will overtake the wicked among them, and the wrongdoers will cry, Our Lord, delays for a little while. We will respond to your call and follow messengers. It will be said, Did you not swear before that you would never be removed to the next life? You passed by the ruins of those destroyed peoples who had wronged themselves. It was made clear to you how we dealt with them, and we gave you many examples. They devised every plot which was fully known to Allah, but their plotting was not enough to even overpower mountains, let alone Allah. So do not think, O Prophet, that Allah will fail to keep his promise to messengers. Allah is indeed almighty and capable of punishment. Watch for the day when the earth will be changed to a different earth than the heavens as well, and all will appear before Allah, the One, the Supreme. On that day you will see the wicked bound together in chains, with garments of tar, and their faces covered with flames. As such, Allah will reward every soul for what is committed. Surely Allah is swift in reckoning. This Quran is a sufficient message for humanity so that they may take it as a warning and know that there is only one God, and that the people of reason may be mindful. To John Craig, Mount Vernon, March 29th, 1785. Sir, if I could give you any useful information on the subject of your letter to me, I would do it with pleasure. But although I have a good general knowledge of the Western country, I am very little acquainted with local situations, and less with those on the Susquehanna than any other. Monongahela, of which Cheat River is a branch, is gentle in its current, easy of navigation, and besides is supposed either by the Cheat or the Yohegancy, which is another branch of it, to approach nearest to and to afford the best communication of portage with the Atlantic waters of any and all the extensive territory. Consequently, seats thereon from this circumstance alone must be valuable, but the quality of the land is inferior to none until you penetrate much further to the westward, for much lower down the Ohio, and it is besides much better settled than any part of the country beyond the Allegheny Mountains. Upon what terms you could buy to rent, I presume you are not inclined, or the difficulty might be less. A seat having such conveniences as you want, I am unable to inform you. The prices of land are rising every day, and if the plan which is now in contemplation for extending the navigation of the Potomac and opening roads of communication short and easy between it and the waters above mentioned should be effected, of which I have no doubt the price will increase much faster. My compliments and best wishes to Mrs. Craig, I'm etc. You will be implemented in that, is what he's saying. Because you're together there. One and the same. The value of Western land. A Louisiana Purchase? How much was the Louisiana Purchase? How much was the Louisiana Purchase? Thank you. 15 million. I appreciate you. I'll be taking that. To Lucretia Wilhelmina Van Winter, Mount Vernon, March 30, 1785. Van Buren. Madam, the honor which your pen has done to me so far exceeds my merits, that I am at a loss for words to express my sense of the compliment it conveys. The poem, in celebration of my exertions to establish the rights of my country, was forwarded to me from Philadelphia by Mr. Vogels, to whom I should have been happy to have offered civilities, but he did not give me the pleasure to see him. At best, I have only been an instrument in the hands of Providence to effect, with the aid of France and many virtuous fellow citizens of America, a revolution which is interesting to the general liberties of mankind and to the emancipation of a country which may afford an asylum, if we are wise enough to pursue the paths which lead to virtue and happiness, to the oppressed and needy of the earth. Our region is extensive, our plains are productive, and if they are cultivated with liberality and good sense, we may be happy ourselves, and diffuse happiness to all who wish to participate. The lady of whom you have made such an honorable mention is truly sensible of the obligation, and joins with me in wishing you every happiness which is to be found here and met with hereafter. I have the honor, etc. Well, judging by the actions that are transpiring there, I think this might be a mockery. I'm not gonna do it unless I'm recording it, so it would be unwise to do this without recording, especially if you're granting me like immunities and other such things. That would be unwise. To Bushrod, Washington, Mount Vernon, April 3rd, 1785. Dear Bushrod, your letter of the 20th, although it did not come to my hands until the 31st, whenever you have occasion to write to me from the line of the post, I always put your letter into the mail. All other conveyances are uncertain, at best irregular. Not expecting you were going to Richmond, I did previously, to the receipt of your letter, write to the Attorney General, to whose care my letter to you had been addressed, requesting him to open it, and so far as it respected the promissory note of Ryan, to comply with my desire on that head. Being on the spot, you can be informed of the state of this matter and govern yourself accordingly. From the letter book, copying the Washington papers, James Hay, he was publisher of the Virginia Gazette, or American Advertiser, Richmond, Virginia. By the last post, I enclosed an advertisement to Mr. Hayes, the printer, requesting a meeting of the proprietors of the Great Dismal Swamp. The servant by whom I sent it to Alexandria got there after the mail was dispatched, but meeting with the stage, he says he put it into the hands of somebody who promised to take care of it. As this may or may not be the case, I beg you will make immediate inquiry, and in case of failure, desire him to insert the one herewith enclosed 3 weeks in his Gazette, and as a notice will be sure to have it also published in some other paper of general circulation. If nothing unforeseen should happen to prevent it, I expect to be in Richmond at the appointed time, and having no other business, should regret a disappointment. The holy berries, geese, and swan are here, but no mention made of the cotton. All here join me in best wishes for you. I am, etc. P.S. Upon second thought, I have sent the advertisement to the printer himself, lest this letter should I, in the post office, from one of your knowing it is there, the one enclosed for Dr. Walker, endeavor to forward by some safe hand. Lafayette. The advertisement. Oh, he committed a crime in doing so. I'm excused. The act of right there excuses me from pretty much, I think is what he's pointing out. To Charles Thompson, Mount Vernon, April 5th, 1785. Dear Sir, in the latter part of last spring, the commissioners appointed to attend the embarkations at New York, previous to the evacuation of the city, made a report of the proceedings to me, accompanied by a voluminous list of the slaves which had left that place. Soon after having the pleasure of Mr. Reed's company here, he informed me in conversation that the list I'd received was a duplicate of what had been sent to Congress, upon which I filed it with my public papers. By the last post, he says he had been under a mistake and wished me to forward the papers which are in my hands to Congress. This I must assuredly have done, but they are too bulky for the mail, and liable to much injury from the nature of such a carriage. However, I will await your direction from acquainting you that 2 of the commissioners, Egbert Benson, Esquire, and Lieutenant Colonel Smith, with the secretary, Mr. Samuel Inches, and undoubtedly the papers from which the report and proceedings were founded, are in York. If notwithstanding it is necessary to resort to me, the originals, for it is not in my power to make copies, shall be sent, although it will make a chasm in my files, and disappoint many who apply to them for information respecting their Negroes. I am, etc. Thank you. I appreciate you. You guys. I almost feel like the wife and husband are going back and forth here. Martha? What? Betty Davis? Oh, Betty? To Governor George Clayton, Mount Vernon, April 5th, 1785. Dear Sir, a few days ago I had the pleasure to receive your favor of the 5th, all to your other's letter of the 26th of December came duly to hand, and should not have remained so long unacknowledged, had I not been in daily expectation of accompanying my answer with a remittance. Disappointment followed disappointment, but my expectation being kept alive, I delayed writing from one post day to another until now, that I am assured by a merchant in Alexandria that I may depend upon a bill in a few days upon a Mr. Sylvanus Dickinson of the city of New York for $2,500. As it is probable I may receive it before the next week's post. I will on that occasion write you more fully. At present, I will only add the sincere good wishes and best respects of Mrs. Washington to yourself, Mrs. Clinton, and family, to which will much truth mine are united. With great esteem, etc. P.S. Since writing the above, I have recorded the enclosed bill. The second shall be sent by next post, when I shall be more particular. To Christopher Richmond, Mount Vernon, April 6, 1785. Sir, by the last post, Major Jennifer transmitted me an account of my Continental certificates as they had been audited in your office, by which there is a difference of 64.14.718, short of my estimation of their value. You're at 0. This, for I did not go into the examination of figures, appears to have originated from the times of calculating depreciation. I have always understood that depreciation was the same through the month, and if I did not misapprehend the intendant, his ideas of it accorded therewith. However, I only asked for information, and because I had calculated myself in this manner, for I want no other measure than what is given to others. I am, etc. P.S. How does your subscription to the Potomac navigation go on? That means get the fuck out. Hand over the money. To James Dwan, Mount Vernon, April 10th, 1785. Dear Sir, enclosed you have my answer to the acts of your cooperation, which I pray you to present. I thank you for the arguments and judgment of the marriage courts of the city of, from the letterbook copy in the Washington papers, auditor in the Intendant's office of the state of Maryland, from a photograph of the original in the State House, Annapolis, Maryland. New York in the cause between Elizabeth Rutgers and Joshua Waddington. I have read them with all the attention I could give the subject, and though I pretend not to be a competent judge of the law of nations, or the principle and policy of the statute upon which the action was founded, yet I must confess that reason seems very much in favor of the opinion given by the court, and my judgment yields a hearty assent to it. It is painful to hear that a state which used to be the foremost in acts of liberality and its exertion to establish our federal system upon a broad bottom and solid ground is contracting her ideas and pointing them to local and independent measures, which, if perversed in, must sap the constitution of these states, already too weak, destroy our national character, and render us as contemptible in the eyes of Europe as we have it in our power to be respectable. It should seem as if the impost of 5 per count would never take place, for no sooner does an obstinate state begin to relent and adopt the recommendations of Congress, but some other runs restive, as if there was a combination among them to defeat the measure. From the latest European accounts, it is probable an accommodation will take place between the Emperor and the Dutch, but to reverberate news to a man at the source of intelligence would be idle, therefore mum. The Dutch, I conceive, are too much attached to their possessions and their wealth, if they could yield to the pangs of parting with their country, to adopt the plan you hinted to, Mr. Van Berkel. The nations of Europe are ripe for slavery, a thirst after riches, promptitude to leisure, and a thinking of venality, with their concomitants, untune them for manly exertions and virtuous sacrifices. A few papers concerning the case of Elizabeth Rutgers v. Joshua Waddington are in the Hamilton Papers, legal 1784, in the Library of Congress. Emperor Joseph H. of Austria. I do not know from whence the report of my coming to Trenton could have originated, unless from a probability of my accompanying the Marquis de Lafayette as far as New York should have caused it. He pressed me to the measure, but the reason was too much opposed to it to obtain it. Mrs. Washington and myself entertain a grateful sense of the kind recollection of us by you, Mrs. and Mrs. Duane, and the other branches of your family, and beg leave to present our compliments to and best wishes for them all, with very great esteem and C. P.S. If our Rocky Hill acquaintance, Mrs. Van Horn, has removed, as she talked of doing, in the city of New York, I pray you to recall me in respectful terms to her remembrance. NYHF. Alright, we'll close it off with chapter 5 of Isaiah. I see. Chapter 5. Now will I sing to my well-beloved a song of my beloved touching his vineyard. My well-beloved hath a vineyard in a very fruitful hill, and he fenced it, and gathered out the stones thereof, and planted it with the choicest vine, and built a tower in the midst of it, and also made a winepress therein, and he looked that it should bring forth grapes, and it brought forth wild grapes. And now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem and men of Judah, judge, I pray you, betwixt me and my vineyard. What could have been done more to my vineyard that I have not done in it? Wherefore, when I looked that it should bring forth grapes, brought it forth wild grapes. And now go to, I will tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take away the hedge thereof, and it shall be eaten up, and break down the wall thereof, and it shall be trodden down. And I will lay it waste, it shall not be pruned nor digged, but there shall come up briars and thorns. I will also command the clouds that they rain up no rain upon it. For the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel, and the men of Judah his pleasant plant. And he looked for judgment, behold oppression, for righteousness, behold the cry. Woe unto them that join house to house, that lay field to field, till there be no place, that they may be placed alone in the midst of the earth. In my ears, said the Lord of hosts, of a truth many houses shall be desolate, even great and fair, without inhabitant. Yea, 10 acres of vineyard shall yield one bath, and the seed of a homer shall yield ephah. Woe unto them that rise up early in the morning, that they may follow strong drink, that continue until night, till wine inflame them, and the harp, and the viol, and the tabret, and pipe, and wine are in their feast, but they regard not the work of the Lord, neither consider the operation of his hands. Therefore my people are gone into captivity, because they have no knowledge, and their honorable men are famished, and their multitude dried up with thirst. Therefore hell hath enlarged herself, and opened her mouth without measure, and their glory, and their multitude, and their pomp, and he that rejoiceth shall descend into it. And the mean man shall be brought down, and the mighty man shall be humbled, and the eyes of the lofty shall be humbled. But the Lord of hosts shall be exalted in judgment, and the God that is holy shall be sanctified in righteousness. Then shall the lambs feed after their manner, and the waste places of the fat ones shall strangers eat. Woe unto them that draw iniquity with cords of vanity, and sin as it were with a cart rope. That say, let him make speed and hasten his work, that we may see it. And let the counsel of the Holy One of Israel draw nigh and come, that we may know it. Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe unto them that are wise in their own eyes and prudent in their own sight. Woe unto them that are mighty to drink wine, and men's strength to mingle strong drink, which justify the wicked for reward, and take away the righteousness for the righteous from him. Therefore, as the fire devoureth the stubble, and the flame consumeth the chaff, so their root shall be as rottenness, and their blossom shall go up as dust, because they have cast away the law of the Lord of hosts, and despised the word of the Holy One of Israel. Therefore is the anger of the Lord kindled against his people, and he hath stretched forth his hand against them, and hath smitten them. And the hills did tremble, and their carcasses were torn in the midst of the streets. For all this his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. And hath smitten him, and he will lift up an ensign to the nations from afar, and will hiss unto them from the end of the earth. And behold, they shall come with speed swiftly. None shall be weary nor stumble among men. None shall slumber nor sleep, neither shall the girdle of their loins be loosed, nor the latchet of their shoes be broken. Whose arrows are sharp, and all their bows bent. Their horses' hoofs shall be counted like flint, and their wheels like a whirlwind. Their roaring shall be like a lion, shall roar like young lions. Yea, they shall roar, and lay hold of the prey, and shall carry it away safe, and none shall deliver it. And in that day they shall roar against them like the roaring of the sea. And if one look unto the land, behold darkness and sorrow, and the light is darkened in the heavens thereof. I wonder what it looks like in the ark. I think is what he's talking about, because you can see I can feel the ledges. Chapter 6. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw also the Lord sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. Above it stood the seraphims, each one had 6 wings. With twain he covered his face, and with twain he covered his feet. Up with twain he did fly. And one cried unto another, and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. And the posts of the door moved at the voice of him that cried, and the house was filled with smoke. Then said I, Woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For mine eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. Then flew one of the seraphims unto me, having a live coal in his hand, which he had taken with the tongs from off the altar. He wants me to clean it, is what he wants me to do. And he laid it upon my mouth, and said, Lo, this hath touched thy lips, and thine iniquity is taken away, and thy sin purged. Also I heard the voice of the Lord, saying, Whom shall I send, and who will go for us? Then said I, Here am I, send me. And he said, Go and tell his people, Hear ye indeed, but understand not, and see ye indeed, but perceive not. Make the heart of this people fat, and make their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and convert, and be healed. Then said I, Lord, how long? And he answered, Until the cities be wasted without inhabitant, and the houses without man, and the land be utterly desolate. And the Lord have removed men far away, and there be a great forsaking in the midst of the land. But yet in it shall be a tenth, and it shall return, and shall be eaten, as a tall tree, and as an oak, whose substance is in them, when they cast their leaves, so the holy seed shall be the substance thereof. move on to number 15 of the Quran. The holy seed would be Solomon here. This would be the Trinity, me, David, and Solomon. We'll end this on a high note here. So 15 is Al-Hajir. Alif Lam Ra. These are the verses of the book, the clear Quran. The day will come when the disbelievers will certainly wish they had submitted to Allah. So let them eat and enjoy themselves and be diverted by false hope, for they will soon know. We have never destroyed a society without a destined term. No people can advance their doom, nor can they delay it. They say, O you to whom the reminder is revealed, you must be insane. Why do you not bring us the angels, if what you say is true? We do not send the angels down except for a just cause, and then the end of the disbelievers will not be delayed. It is certainly we who have revealed the reminder, and it is certainly we who preserve it. Indeed, we sent messengers before you, O Prophet, among the groups of early peoples. But no messenger ever came to them without being mocked. This is how we allow disbelief to steep into the hearts of the wicked. They would not believe in this Quran despite the many examples of those destroyed before. And even if we opened for them a gate to heaven through which they continued to ascend, still they would say, our eyes have truly been dazzled. In fact, we must have been bewitched. Indeed, we have placed constellations in the sky and adorned it for all to see, and we protect it from every accursed devil, except the one eavesdropping who is then pursued by the visible flare. As for the earth, we spread it out and placed it upon firm mountains, and caused everything to grow there in perfect balance. And we made it a means of sustenance for you and others, who you do not provide for. There is not any means of sustenance whose reserves who do not hold, only bringing it forth in precise measure. We send fertilizing winds and bring down rain from the sky for you to drink. It is not you who hold its reserves. Surely it is we who give life and cause death, and we are the eternal successor. We certainly know those who have gone before you and those who will come after you. Surely your Lord alone will gather them together for judgment. He is truly all-wise, all-knowing. Indeed, we created man from sand and clay, molded from black mud. As for the jinn, we created them earlier from smokeless fire. Remember, O Prophet, when your Lord said to these angels, I am going to create a human being from sand and clay, molded from black mud. So when I have fashioned him and had a spirit of my own creation, breathed into him, fall down to prostration to him. So the angels prostrated all together. But no Iblis, who refused to prostrate with the others. Allah asked, O Iblis, what is the matter with you that you did not join others in prostration? He replied, it is not for me to prostrate to a human, you created from sand and clay, molded from black mud. Allah commanded, then get out of paradise.
He's too fresh. He's way too fresh.
And surely upon you is condemnation until the day of judgment. Satan appealed, my Lord, then delay my end until the day of the resurrection. Allah said, you will be delayed until the appointed day. Satan responded, my Lord, for allowing me to stray, I will surely tempt them on earth and mislead them altogether, except your chosen servants among them. He's got an answer for everything, doesn't he? Hold on. No, I'll leave it on you, Solomon, after this. Allah said, this is the way binding on me. You will certainly have no authority over my servants except the deviant who follow you. And surely hell is their destined place altogether. That's the gist of the story. You're going to hell, bro. There's no arguing. It has 7 gates, to each a group of them is designated. Indeed, the righteous will be amid gardens and springs. It will be said to them, enter in peace and security. We will remove whatever bitterness they had in their hearts. In a friendly manner they will be on thrones, facing one another. No fatigue will touch them there, nor will they ever be asked to leave. Inform my servants, O Prophet, that I am truly the all-forgiving, most merciful, and that my torment is indeed the most painful. And inform them, O Prophet, about Abraham's guest, who entered upon him and greeted him with peace. He later said, surely we are afraid of you. They reassured him, "Do not be afraid. Surely give you good news of a knowledgeable son." I appreciate you. I hope all is well. I will continue this. I'll probably do magic the entire time on this one. Honestly. We'll see how it goes. I was gonna switch over to magic on the last one, but again, the stream was kind of messed up because of where I was. But I've situated that. We'll see you in the next stream. Pretty well done. I'm pretty happy with that. As we get the clay out of the black mud.